up, not down, not any of the other buttons. Well, I think what we can all agree is that the world is changing and it's changing very rapidly. And I think in the last 3, 4, 5 years, we have seen that many of the assumptions that we had when we started this process in 2021, 2022 probably have been changed. So I want to reflect on this with my colleagues here, the distinguished panelists, and also I want to try to use this opportunity to discuss what should be the next priorities of 6G research in Europe. I think the next 18 months are going to be key because there will be a lot of decisions that are going to be taken, both at political but also at budget level. In this case at the European Union, but I think this is also common to many of the member states. I was attending previously the session on national plans. I think the situation is very similar. Today, what we are going to be discussing, I think, is basically four kind of areas in the debate. One is analyze what has worked so far in the programs of 6G research in the last few years. What are the success that we can extract? Second part, a little bit of more with a critical eye, what are the things that can be improved? Also, one discussion on something that I think we tend to avoid in many of our discussions, which is the concept of talent, the concept of mindset that is required if Europe wants to compete globally, and how can we that be improved? And finally, a discussion on the future. So what are the things that we could probably agree that could be recommendations for the next framework program, for the next multi-annual financial framework, and how could we structure research in Europe? So without further ado, I'm going to move to the panel, and I'm going to start. I'm going to start introducing the panelists that we have here. First one is Professor Anna Tzanakaki. She's a professor at the University of Athens, and she's an expert in infrastructure validation. Anna has led several testbed and deployment projects, and she brings insight into bridging technical research with real-world implementation. I have one quick question for you, Anna. You have worked across dozens of EU research projects. What's the most important ingredient for turning research into impact? And it's a quick answer what we need these days.
Thank you very much for the introduction and very much for this invitation to be here today in this panel. Trying to summarize, I think overall to create impact means basically to translate research outputs into real life benefits. Mm-hmm. So if we think about this, I think what we have to do is to target specific research outputs. This can be technical methodologies to enable reproducibility. It could be tools. It could be prototypes. It could be pilots and field trials. And then I think it will be clear, the impact will be clear because we can produce academic impact, we develop knowledge, the knowledge can drive future research. We can create economic impact because we can fuel innovation, we can support innovation, exploitation of research in the form of innovation. And then we can bring societal impact because we bring new products, new services, we make these available to the citizens, improving their life.
Perfect, thank you. Our second guest is Erik Ström. Erik is a professor at Chalmers University and is a leader in mobility and systems research. You work closely with public and private stakeholders, and you are working also in very practical use cases with public value. So Erik, if you could pick one sector where academic research has made a tangible difference in Europe, what comes to mind first?
Well, I mean, I guess 5G and I guess also 6G is very much about mobile broadband, right? So that's what is driving everything, and that has a huge impact on the way we live and how we work and how we play. But I would say in 5G, the research we were involved in that I'm most hopeful for is the machine type communication which integrated now for real for the first time. Of course, it's not perfect in 5G. It needs to be better in 6G, and I'm sure there will still be work to be done after that. But that, I think, is very nice, because then we can actually use the cellular infrastructure to provide societal value beyond what mobile broadband can do. And I'm talking about critical services, protecting infrastructure, providing security and safety for people. So I think this is something that we should look forward to.
Perfect, thank you. Our next panelist is Matti Latva-aho. You are the director of the Finland 6G flagship. Well, I don't know if you've been promoted, I think, today, so congratulations. And you are also a professor at the University of Oulu. Matti, you have helped shape at the national level and also at the EU level research strategies on 6G. What is one thing that Europe could learn from the national approach that Finland is taking on innovation? What do you think?
Very briefly, start early, aim high, don't be modest. So we started planning 6G flagship already mid of 2017, and the program was on and going 1st of May 2018. Industry didn't like us at all. We used the term 6G. We organized first 6G events. We made first 6G white papers. And we showed the way and aiming high. And that was important for us. And also, we started to have direct dialogue to decision makers at highest possible level. Even the president of the country, prime minister of the country, different ministries, different administrations. So we have had continued support from politicians who are making decisions on future funding. It's important. Also aiming high, we mean that we aimed at having some sort of international thought leadership early on. Nobody was even thinking about 6G. And I think all these things have had big impact on where we are today.
Thank you. Our next panelist, Valeria Loscri, you are research director at INRIA Lille. And Valeria, you are working on cybersecurity. I attended your panel before, earlier today, and also on emerging tech and ethics. And you are a strong voice on societal impact and cross-sector collaboration. Valeria, if you could pair telecoms with another discipline or another vertical to boost impact, what would that specific sector or vertical would be?
Thanks, Javier, for the introduction and for the question. I started to think a little bit about this question, and my answer would have been social, human science. But after I joined the EuCNC and after discussing with several colleagues, I believe that is not enough. We need to consider cross-discipline, SHS for sure, but because we are speaking about societal impact, but also economic and legal aspects are really important key points that we have to take into account. And my opinion is that we should find a way to consider them since the beginning, not after the technology is done. So I'm not able to choose among them. I believe that the three disciplines are important.
Perfect. Thank you. And finally, Marcin Ratkiewicz, Innovation Director at Orange Poland. You are the Polish representation in the panel. And you are leading efforts to turn telecom infrastructure into innovation platforms. I think it's very, very interesting, your role. And you work with startups and service providers to build value on top of network capabilities. Marcin, in your experience, what is that one thing that helps a research outcome to become relevant, to have really impact in the market and to cross the innovation chasm?
So, hello everyone. First of all, it is the question of addressing properly the setup. and to understand, with all respect, that the guys who are working in research, they are from totally different planet than the guys who are working in the delivery and their business. What I mean, for example, because I have a guys, women and men, engineers, researchers and so on, who work in research, and those guys, they constantly undermine status quo. The first question when they ask is, why? While the other guys who I have in the production delivery, they're asking what and till when. The same with the startuppers. So first basic thing is to understand that we are different, the team and the setup which we are managing is different, and it's great. And first of all, do not force the people to act differently. It's great that the researchers are questioning status quo and they asking why. Those guys define how the future might look like. The other guys are to the delivery. The biggest importance is to set up the framework for communication and to speak different languages, but only on the part of the communication, not on the essence what you are doing, because this is the collapse. So, and the same with the external ecosystem, with the startuppers, which are totally different, and they do not understand the language of the big corporation. They do not understand the preparation of the technology. They do not understand what does it mean to have the scalability potential, and what does it mean time to market and so on, and the commercial periods. It's totally a nightmare for them. The same with the academicers. Those guys have the different ambitions, a different way of thinking. It's excellent to work in the place where the things can be merged together. However, in my opinion, after the experience in this position, is first of all to understand and embrace this diversity by proper communication.
We will talk about this in the third part of the panel. So now moving to the panel itself. First part is what is working. So analyzing what we have done in Europe in research in the last 4 or 5 years. What do we think, with a positive lens, what has worked well? So maybe we can start with you, Anna. From your perspective, you have experience in test beds, in pilots. What type of a structure of projects works well and is effective in terms of, has worked well in the last few years?
Yes, thank you very much for this question. I think one important aspect is the consortium. Mm-hmm. So from our experience, it's very important to have a consortium that brings together stakeholders, different stakeholders. So, of course, a research community, which I, in some way, represent in this mm-hmm. panel, but industry, SMEs, and maybe even more so, because these are the obvious type of partners you bring in a consortium like this, but more so stakeholders associated with the end users. Mm-hmm. So for us, this has been vertical industries. Yep. And it has been a huge asset for the projects to involve vertical industry representatives, because it helped enormously in defining requirements. So I think it's very important to have a good requirement definition, which somehow has to be associated with the end user. And then the second stage is to convert these requirements into specification, into technical specification, so technical partners get involved in this and support these activities, and then start the research and technical development. And then the output of this, in form of prototypes, is being demonstrated, is being piloted, and for us, it was an amazing experience to perform several field trials. Mm-hmm. So if I can bring a specific example, we had a 5GPP project. It was under ICT 19. It was called 5G Victory. I was the technical coordinator of this project. And we had a number of field trials, and they were actually real-life demonstrations in operational environment, involving a number of vertical industries. So rail, actually some really tough industries to try and address and bring new technologies in. So rail was an extremely challenging industry. So we had rail, we had media, we had energy. The lessons we learned out of this interaction were unmatched. And I think we brought solutions that these industries embraced, and I think they're now bringing into their next generation products and operation platforms. So this was, I think, an unmatched experience. I think it was extremely positive and constructing, and of course we learned a lot, and we found out challenges and constraints that we would have never thought about. And you know, if we didn't have to work with them very closely in the actual operational environment that they bring these solutions in when they try to get into a commercialized phase. So this is maybe one experience I can share, and I think that was extremely positive from an output perspective.
Moving to the other side of the panel, to Marcin. And looking at this angle of the demand side, or in terms of the research project, is there any, example that you of in your organization of a project that has been accepted and taken to the market and that
from research, you mean?
Yes,
yes.
That made the whole, let's say, end-to-end process and actually became a product or a service that is actually commercial in Orange?
Yes, yes, and it is in the domain of artificial intelligence. Why? Because it's interesting, you know, because in connectivity we have, I would say, something like still a legacy pipeline. But in AI, it was possible as well to make a little bit different setup. What I mean is, when I said about the communication and mixing the guys together, it was from the very beginning that the guys who work in research, in artificial intelligence, and really those guys work about this LLM and this stuff a few years ago, which no one cares and no one believed what is it. Even guys from my team, they published some papers about the transformers a few years ago. No one was, you know, what it's about. But when there was the hype was starting, you know, then this capacity, what the guys had, we cross-check with the business application. What I mean business application? Business needs very quickly, and we implemented the solution based on Gen AI in our production, internal production, because we have this GDPR and so on, so you know it's totally different to face the Gen AI directly to the customer, but we transfer the solution very quickly to the business. But the core element was, first of all, not to work in the legacy framework, so this, let's say, thing helps, and second, very quick way of iteration with the real customers and with business. And what does it mean? In my opinion, it's still not the case in the connectivity and in this world. We have first good sign, like in Hexa, for example, where we make these trials and experiments with customers, with clients, this consulting phase. But it was in France, in Portugal. And it is described in the Hexa deliverable, deliverable 1.4, as I remember, strongly recommend. But it is not a standard. And in my opinion, it is one of the elements which we should as well think very, very precisely in telco, in connectivity technologies, to take advantage on such approach.
Thank you. Now moving to Erik. Erik, I think one of the areas where I think in Europe we can be, we can recognize that we have been successful is in the public-private partnership model. Can you give us an example, for example, of an impactful partnership that you have seen in terms of connecting research with some kind of public or private partnership mode in terms of taking it to the market?
Yeah, well, yes, and it's a little bit awkward here to talk about you know, colleagues all over the place, because it's easy to forget somebody. But I think if one looks at the environments where this has happened to a large degree, is to look maybe at the consortia that in the SNS projects, for instance. And you see, you know, there are teams there that pop up on a regular basis, and there is a reason for that, right? They deliver in the projects, and they have, you know, to do a decent work, basically, right? So, I mean, I have great respect for what they do in the 6G flagship and TU Dresden and many other places. I don't want to mention all of them. And I think we've done a decent job here at Chalmers, also my home university. And the reason why we have been successful in this is the multiple things. One thing is that we have had also national programs, which is funded by the local Swedish agency for this, is called Vinnova. And they fund projects together with the industry. And one thing they actually done, which allowed us at Chalmers to build long-term relationship with the industry and public sector, is to fund something that they call competence centers, which is a 10-year effort. It's not a huge amount of money, but we have a legal agreement with a large number of companies within this so-called excellence centers. And from that, we build trust and we spin out shorter-term projects that we can apply on a European or on a national level. So that model has worked very well for us. And also, I think it's important to have the university management leadership on your side. So they feel like, okay, we are actually doing work which matters, right? So at Chalmers we are, the management leadership says, okay, the university is about teaching, it's about research, and it's about utilization, which is our word for interaction with society. And we are measured on all these parameters. And we're expected to deliver on them also. So it's been in our DNA for a long time to have this. And the final thing I would say that's also been working very well for us is to have experts, senior experts from industry, to spend time with us as adjunct faculty. So we have people from, the usual suspects, Ericsson, Saab, the Volvo companies and so forth, spend 1 day a week at least in our environments, working with us, interacting with other students, sitting at coffee breaks, lunch breaks, whatever, and then things happen. First of all, we build trust and we find good ideas for working. And I think this is important because top down from say company management to say, okay, work with this university or vice versa, that really don't work. We need personal interaction and not over Teams or Zoom, actually in the office, in the coffee breaks.
Yeah.
Then you can get things rolling.
Thank you. Continuing with Matti, in the 6G flagship, what is the biggest kind of outcome in terms of innovation to market that you have seen in the last few years?
Well, first of all, there is no 6G market yet. Technology is not yet there, but if I look at the key technology enablers that ITOR has identified, like for example, integrated communication sensing, very accurate positioning. Yeah. I could pick up a couple of examples. One example is we cannot claim the fame of that, although we would love to, but one of our colleagues who worked with us early at the flagship, he started up a company, and his company is able to measure 3D position at sub-millimeter accuracy. And his innovation is now used in construction industry for various applications. That's really amazing. So wireless technologies can be used for really accurate localization. That's a good sign. From broadband mobile connectivity that Erik mentioned in the beginning, that's really the key driver for whatever generation also in the future. We did bet quite a bit in the beginning on sub-terahertz RF technologies, like I would say everybody else. Now, lately we have seen that it's not going to be the first thing to be done in 6G era. Maybe later on, let's see. We were doing a lot of research on that. Our team did lots of IPRs. They have great ideas, great innovations, but time is not yet for those. It's still to come. Something on the societal needs side of the story, which seems to be something which is still neglected over and over again. We don't really look at that deeply enough, and we should really like it was earlier, that we should take that into consideration early on, not later when the technology is there. One thing that we have realized, and that's, I would say, our latest biggest innovation, is to realize one fact. And the resilience of mobile networks is not even close to what it should be today, not to mention future, where we depend in all sectors of our lives on mobile technologies, which are heavily coupled to power grids, etc. So what if something unexpected happens? They will start to fail one after another. So something needs to be done for that, and I do sincerely hope that 6G standardization is innovative enough to take that into consideration in long term, as a long-term target.
This is a nice way to get into the second kind of segment, which is the barriers and the bottlenecks that we see. Valeria, from your point of view, what are the main barriers that you see from a research perspective? Structural or could be also cultural, that slow down the path from lab to something more on the commercial track?
So thanks a lot for the very interesting question, because I have the impression that sometimes, above all, public research and industry run at different speed and sometimes on parallel tracks. Yep. And it's difficult to make them converging then. And based on my recent experience, I'm trying to create a startup based on security on optical wireless communication. This is something that is strongly supported by INRIA. There is an entity called the INRIA Startup Studio for that, where we are supposed to translate research output in industrial application, real industrial application. What I realized is that the contact to define how it was said, the real needs of business arrived too late. And there is too much bureaucracy. Okay, I live in France, but I believe this is common in more or less all the country in Europe. And bureaucracy kills the flexibility. So it's difficult to run and try to understand the needs and then develop the technology, because often we are really blocked about this formality that are necessary but should be implemented maybe with a different approach to incentivize the flexibility, as I'm saying. And this is something that I'm experiencing in this month, and I believe that directly putting since the beginning, when there is a technology, something, not all the technology need to be translated soon in a product, but if this potentiality is identified, the contact with the correct business angel or with the industry should be done really at the beginning to develop together in simultaneous way the research for the technology. And this is something that I mean, from INRIA point of view, from France point of view, I see there is an effort, but still there is much more effort to be done in this sense.
Thank you, Valeria. Erik, from an academic perspective, do you think that we have the right set of incentives in Europe? I'm thinking especially of people that are working at universities or leading research centers, for example, to create a startup or to take a risk of moving into something that is a little bit maybe beyond of what is their area of expertise, similar to what you see maybe in the US or in other regions of the world that that people move between academia and startups. What are the incentives that need to be there?
Yeah, so starting with the US, I once sat next to a famous professor from Stanford, and she told me that a joke, right, that she'd been asked, is it mandatory to have a startup if you work at Stanford? And her answer was, no, but if you want a house in Palo Alto, it is. Yes. So some people are driven by money, right? And some people are driven by okay, I want to create something tangible. I want to bring my research to a customer or to solve a societal problem or something like that. So at the end, I mean, that's a prerequisite for things to happen, right? That there is a actual interest from the researcher to do this. Then one needs to have the legal and the support system around that to allow this to happen. And that is very much up to the local, to the national legislation in different countries. So I don't know how it is in Finland about this, but in Sweden, and it used to be in Norway and perhaps also in Denmark, that academics and students and so forth, they own their own IP, which means that Chalmers University, my employer, has no rights to my ideas. And this is to foster the creation of companies and so forth. So I could start a company tomorrow if I want, and I don't need to negotiate with the university in order for this to happen. There are some drawbacks with this also, right? But one needs to have a support structure around this, and the different ways one can do this. I know at KU Leuven, for instance, they have a successful such organization. You need support with stuff that is not my key competence. I mean, I know nothing about legal, how to finance, all these different things. I might have a brilliant idea, but I need also to partner up with people that can do this. And if you have a good environment around the university where these things happen, things can happen. And I mean, one of my old PhD students, he started a company which is now 150 people type of company, right? Doing very well, Camcom Technology, which is also very active in SNS projects and so forth. So, and he was just a PhD student and took advantage of his, position as owning his own IP to do this.
Moving to Matti and following up on this, either in Finland or maybe as a theoretical idea, do you think that funding schemes should incorporate maybe the possibility of creating ways to fund startups that can take the ideas further into the...
Looking this great question from my discipline, maybe there were better times for starting up companies in wireless. Now, VC funding has practically disappeared. And everything where you say two letters AI, you may hear cash coming to your pocket. So it depends what is really fashionable amongst VCs. And one real problem we have had, no matter what is the technology, when you look around, at least in Finland, I've seen it happening all the time, that when we have a potential growth company coming up with great product, great ideas, great talent, great people, great everything, Americans buy it out in one way or another. The latest, little bit sad example was that we had an AI company, Silo, which was acquired by AMD. Well, it made some people to buy houses in Palo Alto-like style areas in Finland, I'm sure, but that's all. So that is a pattern that should be broken in Europe. It's European challenge that where are our VCs? How we can make companies stay within European hands so that not all good ideas flow eventually to US. That is really a great challenge. It's not only on ICT, we have been seeing that in medicine industry in Finland and many other fields. It's happening all the time, everywhere. That is a challenge.
This was exactly a comment that in a similar panel that I attended in Mobile World Congress was also mentioned. This is a very important point. Maybe we can think about how we could solve this problem. Anna, going to you, how can our EU research projects support this early stage innovation and this faster feedback loops that we have been discussing here? What do you recommend from your experience?
Okay, I think you mentioned large European projects, and I think
medium.
if I'm supposed to answer the large, then there is some challenge that we need to solve, and that's related with the size and the communication channels and so on. So there, from experience, I think a good idea would be to create internal modular structures where you bring partners together based on some, not thematic relevance, but activity relevance. So we, for example, there we can simplify interaction, we can simplify communication channels, we can simplify decision making, which can create overhead and introduce delays. We can help in accelerating experimental developments, pilots, and so on. But if we do that, then another thing we have to make sure it happens is that there is cross-cluster. If we create clusters, there should be cross-cluster communication. We need to have mechanism to communicate, share knowledge, share tools, share findings. We've done that in previous projects. We've seen that in the context of 5GPPs, in some large projects, we created clusters to solve this problem. I think it worked very well. Another vehicle that I see in SNS that is helping in this direction, accelerating innovation, is open calls. So I think open calls help a lot in this direction. So, for example, Ström C, Ström D projects, the series of open calls, and I think they're very targeted. They help specialize particular pieces of research and help exploit the research output in specific directions. I think that's a means for acceleration of research output.
Thank you.
And maybe, hopefully, towards innovation.
Thank you. Let's move to the third segment of the day. It's a segment that the idea to include it was in the conversation previously to prepare the call that I had with Matti. It's about this idea of skills, talents, mindsets. Matti, what's your opinion on the type of talent development that we need, that will be most effective to really face this world that is changing and that we need to face?
Yeah, when we look at multitude of different disciplines that are related to mobile sector, 5G, 6G, and future Gs, from that onwards, it definitely requires multidisciplinary skill sets for the next generation of engineers and researchers. So you need to know sufficiently from different fields like radio access networks, AI technologies, software, and maybe some critical issues related to underlying hardware platforms, capabilities, a little bit microelectronics possibly. So it's really multitude of skills that you need to master, and that is a big challenge to us as universities educating next generation of engineers. How can we, within relatively short time period, besides providing them a basis of mathematics, physics, all these basic things that are part of university studies, this multitude of different disciplines, it's a big question, and I haven't yet seen optimal model, so to say, how to make it happen. Of course, work life will educate all the necessary in the end, but to have sufficient information for the youngsters to really start off from that. But I would say that multidisciplinarity of skills is definitely required for successful future.
But I was not only thinking in hard skills, and maybe we can go to Marcin, because I think you hinted at this in your beginning also on the soft skills and the fact that you need different people with different hats in different moments of the let's say, as you evolve towards commercialization. So how do you see this from the angle of an operator, for example?
So I have no doubts about the hard skills. And
of course, no.
It's obvious. But you know, as well about the, first of all, we need to develop this appetite for change, right? The change, and to teach people how to welcome and embrace the change, because everything is changing. And about even the framework, and let me give you a very practical example and how the skills are important in this setup.
Yep.
So when I said use this example from the artificial intelligence and transfer from research to the real business and operation, it doesn't happen just like that. It was the responsibility of the managers and the guys who creating a setup, and this is our role as well, because I'm not researcher, with all respect, maybe you guys are more, but I'm not. I'm looking on the components, putting them out, and trying to create something out of it. So what I had the researchers who spoke research language, right, on this AI. I had the developers who love develop. They don't want to question, they want to deliver. I have a business who want to deliver. And we had the customers. So what we did and which skills are necessary. We have the model, and maybe it's as inspiring as well for another program, which is a co-incubation with customers, co-incubation with the final user. I use the research guys to speak about this LLM and this GenAI, what they have. Very important soft skill was the communication. Communication not in the research language, but in the language of your receiver. I always say to my guys, to the researcher, talk in the language of the receiver, and to the developers, to the language of the researcher. So the communication skills, and the communication is first of all inquiry about the other person's perception, not to convince. Try to ask what you think, why you think like that. And the researcher came and they try to speak in the client language what they have. It was not perfect, but it doesn't matter. At least they tried. And then the worst thing what you can do is force the researchers to deliver. The researchers are not to deliver. Never ask the researchers to deliver, because if you ask the researchers to deliver, you will have totally different things in 2 weeks and never delivery. But on the same setup, on the same place, you have these developers. They're just listening. And you have business guys who are accommodating, because you need to have guys who accommodate the discussion, with the potential user. So researchers give the insights. What are the options? And with all respect, if the researchers speak about the potential services, normally it's absolutely not what the customer wants. Let's just speak about the opportunities, possibilities, and the value of the technology. It's very important to allow them to speak about it. Don't force researcher to speak and create the value. They will not. Then the customer and the developer starting to speak. What is possible? Oh, so it is on the table. It is like that. And usually it's totally different what is being discovered. And here is the magic which you have to have. A little bit of the money in your pocket to make this magic, to give the developers to deliver. And what you need, these skills between the totally different people, is to communicate and even not to act in the agile way. It is to act in the discovery way of acting, so that you are intriguing what the future might bring. What will be the output from the first deployment with the customers, with the user, and make a very close loop back to the researchers, because then they are being fed with the information from the external world. And here is not magic, you can even probably type a mathematical formula for it. Do your PhD about it. But this is how the things work. And in my opinion, as well, we need to train people to be ready about acting in such a way. And we need to frame as well the ecosystem to act like that, because currently we do not have enough even budgeting for this exercise. And you spoke, Matti, about the American. Let me give you the example, guys, about how the American do it, and even we do not, it's not sometimes very clear for us, at least it was my latest discovery when I thought about it. In 2013, CIA contracted $600 million contract with Amazon for cloud services, which we know as AWS. 2013, $600 million. Public money, because it's CIA. to a private company, and imagine that you receive, as a company, 600 million euro, even 100 million euro. Then, you know, and it is extra money for a, you know, for a real customer. So you directly, what I'm just setting up right, as an innovation of the cooperation, you already have a public money, big public money, for a product which you don't know what will be, in the very close environment, because it's CIA, it's defense, so you don't have to publicize what is inside. You have the best guys from a big company, they have a money to give the money for the academics. And we say, because in USA it is the private money who finance research. Yes, but from what is the origin of this private money? It's in fact a public money. And what is the result? 2025. Almost 30% of global cloud market is AWS. Is it coincidence? I doubt it. Starlink, SpaceX, 78% of their money are NASA money and defense department money. It is just a different way of shifting the public money through the business to academic, to researchers, because those guys are developing the technology which just emerging. And we are speaking about what kind of the amount of money in our cases. With all respect, it's peanuts if you divide before of all of us. And, you know, and it is just for the technology. And I'm speaking, yes, and we need more for the customers as well for this experiment. Because look, guys, this small money which we have, is just for a technology, and where is the setup, where is the framework to create this value with customers? No. So this is, you know, if we're speaking about the competences, then how you use these competences, and if you have a really acceleration potential, which is just money, to make it happen, and to grow the value in Europe with our intellectual potential and with our capital.
I don't know if Matti, yes.
I
see that you want to jump.
Throw in a quick comment back. So I think the opportunity for Europe is right now here in dual-use technologies.
Absolutely.
That is the honeypot that we should try to use very smartly in the coming years.
What was your name of the president who wrote a great report, the president of Finland?
Minister.
Yeah. I'm sorry, a great report. If you didn't read, you know, the report, originally, a few years ago, it was first the report for Finland about the dual use and the defense potential. Right now, it is, last year, it was published by European Commission. And in my opinion, it's a perfect paper. It is one of the guidelines for us how to treat these spendings, which we will do anyway, to stimulate our innovation and to build a sovereign technology. Because we need the sovereignty. And you know, if we look across the countries, we have a lot of the potential. We don't have to start from scratch. For example, 5G technologies. In Poland, we have one of the biggest academic labs in Europe because it is 6 universities connected. It is 5G lab. It is spent more than 60 million euros for the lab, so infrastructure is there. It was our local research money from the government. Right now what is necessary is to connect it with the other European-wide framework to build something which is towards 6G. We do not like the things 6G. Come to my panel Friday, because then you will understand why we are not so believing in 6G while we are believing in the technology evolution.
It's a fascinating debate. It's a pity that we don't have more time. I want to touch on the last segment for a few minutes because I think we are literally moving into it. How to design the next program, the next framework program, or the recommendations to that. So maybe Anna, based on this magic that Marcin is mentioning, what do you think we should focus? What would you recommend to focus more on deployment, on uptake, on we want this end-to-end kind of value chain to be implemented, but where do you think
I was afraid I will be asked the question. Okay, being an academic, of course, I cannot leave discovery out of the discussion, and I have to say that we need to give these poor researchers a little bit of the opportunity to explore technological options, right? And try to propose where technology can lead us next. So I think this cannot be out.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree there's need for development, there is need for innovation, there is need for deployment. So for sure, I see the upcoming framework addressing these points. But I think it's critical to make sure that the technology development is not the only focus. We keep space for research because we need to take a further step in the future. We need to make sure that the technologies that are very early in terms of TRLs, readiness level now, have the opportunity to develop further. We need to give the opportunity to bring up new technologies, new ideas, even more novel perspectives, in some cases even radically different to how we see things happening today. So my viewpoint is, yes, we need to look on the development, deployment, innovation, but we should not forget research and novel technology development.
Marcin, from your side, on these public-private partnerships that we are developing in Europe, any idea of how they should work in the future? Do you think that they should be organized differently somehow?
So I don't want to repeat what I said already. We should preserve first what we achieve, because, for example, in FP10, there is a lot of the great achievements. You know, we had a separated things. Right now, we have a very integrated ecosystem. So it's very good and it's work efficiently. However, we should increase this budget for this public-private. Why? Because our business is shrinking. In telco, there was some graph on some of the panels separated about the shrinking of the market for telco. Guys, there is a very good website. It's the investor use it. It is ROIC.ai, Return of Investment AI. There are financial report of all of the companies worldwide we are on any stock of exchange, and just take any first 5 telco operators, especially in Europe, or it can be as well South America, Africa, or which are public. In the last 12 years, if you include the inflation, not the nominal revenues, the drop of revenues is about 35 to 40%. 35 to 40% less revenues. Of course, and we as operator has to pay dividends. So what we do, we shrink and squeeze our cost. Ericsson, Nokia see it as the less value, less orders. Look on their stock exchange, look on their revenues. It's shrinking as well. What? Because look on how much you pay for the telco services, how much a lot of the years ago. We have less money for investments. The investment and the investments for R&D, what we do, is from the less money, so the only things what are able to do is to keep it continuing the network upgrade. And this is why we are focusing on the connectivity. But the value is somewhere else. The value is in the customer. The value is, in the higher margin services, which right now are being consumed by dear friends, platforms from the USA, because there is no solid partner in Europe. Why it is like that? I give you the example with Amazon. I have more of them. So this is why we need this public-private partnership, not only to keep the budgeting which we have right now, but to strengthen it, because the other guys are substituting financing, but just in another way. If we want Europe to grow, if we want our companies to grow, we need to put more public money to public-private partnership to develop the services, to address the demand, to set the test bed, to use what we have, our potential, and to really pay a very solid and honest money to our researchers, so they don't want to have to work in Harvard or the Berkeley or wherever. It's good if they love. But we need our talents here. In Orange, in France, in Poland, we support industrial PhDs. We support the startups which are being created by the students and so on. We do trainings. For example, in Poland, for our trainings for 100 places, we had 14,000 applications in the last year. So, and this is our responsibility, but it's peanuts if we are speaking about the real business, because there is just no money. So if you ask me, just let us make it, and with research, with universities, with our solid European companies and with the operators, we will do it. But we need to have additional stimulation because the others had it. At the moment, it's peanuts.
For the Valeria, Matti, or Erik, public-private partnerships models, have you seen or do you have any idea of things that work in your countries? Do you have anything that should be done differently, or?
From my point of view, I believe that I completely join what Marcin was saying, that we should push this strong interaction between public-private, between research and industry since the beginning to attract, to keep the talent, but to permit above all them to develop in the field directly, and this is really important. And just regarding what Anna was saying, I believe that research, fundamental research, should be something also to be considered, because Marcin started by saying years ago it was published something related to transformer that nobody was care about that. It was really fundamental research at the beginning. We should anticipate. We should not try to follow every time. We should really anticipate and try to have the intuition what could work, but give the chance also to pure fundamental research.
Perfect. I'm conscious of the time, but I didn't want to finish before we try to imagine how the future could look like if we are successful. So may I ask each of you, if you put yourself in, I don't know, in 2030, 2032, and Europe has been successful in really leading the research in 6G and implementing 6G in the economy, how would that success look like for you? How would you define it?
Okay.
We can think whatever
yes,
we want.
That is a very nice thought to use to close this panel. Yes, so thanks a lot. For me, it would be Europe having a leading role in 6G flagship deployments and have important presence in standardization activities, so be present there in a big way. But more so, it's more important to find ways to fuse the technical advancements from these activities into supporting, for example, the way policies and legislations are developed, and the way we can fuel society with innovation. So basically, how can we bring the impact of this work into society and see the output of this technology development in the citizens' everyday life. So see, for example, how we can improve health for citizens, education for citizens, using this kind of technology. How can we make the environment resilient, sustainable? For me, that would be really something that, yes, that will be the vision for the long term that you asked.
Thank you, Anna. Erik?
No, so let's hope we're in a state where Europe is strong and united and forward-looking, regained our confidence, still believe in our core values, not down prioritize that. And basically then Europe will be a good place to live in. And that's where we want to be. We don't want to be anywhere else.
Matti?
Yeah, I would put European values to topmost priority, absolutely. But then looking at our field, I think I envision that Europe is the leader merging mobile and ICT network technologies in a very smart manner with latest this and that from AI applications for users or end users, and also utilizing AI to really make our living environment super smart